Everyone, how was your break?
Good to be back.
Good to be back?
Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody have any particular thoughts while you're on break or any reflections from the first session, or happy to just jump straight back in to the session?
Yeah. Straight in.
Awesome. So, session 2, creating a wellbeing plan. We're going to be doing a little bit of a self-assessment based on, what we went through in session 1, where we are currently at with our wellbeing. And we're going to be looking at goal setting and why goal setting is important. Can anybody remember any of the 7 dimensions of wellness? Do you want to just shout it out?
Financial.
Yep.
Physical.
Yep.
Social.
Yep.
Intellectual.
Occupational.
Yeah.
Emotional.
Awesome. Physical, mental, emotional, intellectual, occupational, spiritual, social, financial. Exactly. Just a quick reminder of some of those key sort of things that we'll be looking at in this session. So, first step is the self-assessment. I've got 10 minutes down for this. It's really just to show that we have plenty of time. So take your time if you need to and you actually want to sort of put some thought into it, and I'll bring you back in, or if everybody's done, that's fine. So we've already sort of had to think about well-being and where we would like to sit and what the sort of ideal would be in terms of where we might sit and feel balanced within our dimensions. Step 1, or step 1A of self-assessment, is reflecting on where you actually currently are right now. And I want you to try and be as honest and vulnerable with yourself as possible, because that's what's going to make this self-assessment actually real. And yeah, you're going to get the most out of it if you're really honest with yourself. So I want you to think about where you are right now and draw it on your scale. It may be in a different colour so you can see the difference.
Do you want us to go by individual headings?
Yeah, so back on the star that you were in,
Yeah.
you might have done, those where you would like to be sitting. Pop in a circle or whatever shape you might like to indicate where you are now.
Oh,
There's,
okay.
pardon?
A rhombus.
Sure, you can do a rhombus if you'd like. There's a few other steps, so this won't necessarily take 10 minutes, but there are a few other steps in this self-assessment to consider as well. So let me know. Awesome. So what this is really meant to do is start to identify those areas where you're feeling quite balanced at the moment, and then those areas where there's maybe some room for improvement and maybe it needs some priority or some focus. There's extra steps that you can do in terms of joining it all together, but I think at the end of the day what we've done is we've sort of articulated where we might want to be, and in each dimension, as I said, you might be a 6 somewhere, you might be a 7 and an 8 somewhere else, so it's not all going to look like a perfect circle or balanced all the time. But I think if you look at the gap between where you'd like to be and where you are for each of those dimensions in comparison to the others, it might start to show you maybe where there are some gaps that you might need to focus on. I don't like to call them weaknesses because that's not what it's about. It's just about something that you might need to maybe put a little bit more effort into or focus on. And as I've said, be honest with yourself. You don't need to be at that 10 out of 10 every time. So looks like you've all, has everybody popped in their self-assessment?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Didn't even take nearly as long as I thought it would, which is great. Anybody have any thoughts about that particular process? Does it, any surprises? Anything that you're like, yeah, actually I kind of really thought that's where I would be, or anything you've identified?
It's a good exercise.
Yeah? Why do you think why was it a good exercise? Did it show you anything in particular? Don't have to be
No, I
detailed.
think it reiterated what I kind of sensed.
Yeah.
It's just going to see and feel it.
Yeah. Any surprises for anybody? Or was it?
I feel like I just
pressure on myself to be, as you said earlier, like maybe not 10 out of 10, but like 8 to 10 out of 10 on everything. And then if I'm not on something, I'm like, that makes me more stressed about that one thing, and then that kind of like snowballs that feeling over a period of time, which makes it worse when in reality, if I look at this, I should try and like bring down certain areas so that I can have room to lift the other one up and balance out a little bit more equally, and then I wouldn't spiral into that stress feeling of like that one not being there, because in reality, like me looking at mine, like my physical is really low at the moment, and when I put my judge of where I would like it to be, it's not that high. Like if I just did a little bit, then I'd be satisfied. So I like think that's achievable if I just brought down like another area, like a slightly bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's a really good way to sort of assess what you've done. I have a little visual that I'll draw for you guys, which you'll probably, I mean, it's a bit of a fun little easel, but you'll probably identify and understand it straight away. One I like to use a lot is the house. So imagine we're in Queensland, how good would that be? And we're in the floodplains and all of the houses are on stilts. And so these are 4 pillars, maybe you could have 6. Each of your star points is a pillar that's holding this house up. And you might have some really strong pillars, but what happens if one of them is, you know, all the way down here? Your house falls over. I mean, that's quite dramatic, but if you're not focusing on making everything even and balanced, and maybe there's a pillar that's sort of rotting away or that you haven't really thought about, your whole structure isn't going to be as stable as it definitely could be. And that's where that whole balance piece comes into it. So that's just an interesting sort of visual or analogy that I like to.
That was a really good perspective drawing as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm an artist.
that was actually spot on.
Thank you. So we'll get Slido out again. Got the QR code there as well. And I'll just get you to pop in, and again, it's anonymous, what dimensions you feel maybe need the most time and thought.
For ourselves.
For yourselves from that self-assessment. And it can be multiple, or it can just be one. It's not working?
It's Mariana.
Marietta. Sorry, Marietta.
It's a lovely name. What's the origin?
Thank you, Crystal.
Wait, so I put me in.
You can add response if you want to put multiple ones that you feel like you need to work on. But it's just showing up here all the different ones that we need to work on. So you can press add response if you'd like to. And it just starts to show all like in a bit of a word cloud.
That's really cool.
Is that doing it from us?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Anonymous.
Well, I don't know who's done it.
Oh,
Yeah, you would.
that's like other people's on.
Yeah, that's what other people's.
Got you.
Yeah. So we've got a few common threads here, you know, emotional health, mental, emotional. But you can also see that everybody probably needs to work on different things. And again, reiterating this point that everybody's wellbeing journey is completely different. And I want to keep reiterating that point because it's actually really important. You really shouldn't, or you should try and avoid comparing yourself or making assumptions about other people's wellbeing and how they're feeling without having a genuine conversation and listening to sort of what it is that they're feeling in the moment. Because often what you see might be different to how they're actually feeling about things, and wellbeing plays all into that space. So something to keep in mind. We're going to leave self-assessment and wellbeing specifically alone for a second, and we're going to move into goal setting. So a question I have for you all is, why do we set goals? What are goals good for?
Achieving
To
what
work
you want.
Yeah? Direction? Yeah. Any other ideas?
To clarify identifying what's in your head
Yeah.
of what you want, and then understanding if that's achievable and how that can be achieved.
Yeah, absolutely. So goals could provide, as we've said, provides a clear direction and purpose, like the clue I had here, like an arrow aimed at a target. Also creating a goal and sharing it with, I've said like team and supervisor, could be friends, could be family. It helps them to understand how they can support you as well. If it's all in your head and you just say, I just want to do this, but you don't actually have, you're not really clear about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve, but you might actually need help with those things. It can be really difficult for somebody to lend you a hand or to give you advice if you're not clear yourself on what it is you're trying to do. It also helps you to sort of prioritize tasks, especially considering those prioritizing tasks. I mean, if you've created a goal that, you know, can only happen when another one is achieved, then you need to prioritize, you know, that other one first. It just sort of starts to go into this whole idea of really understanding what's important at that moment. But really, at the end of the day, setting goals is all about clarity, providing you with direction so you know where to go, getting it out of your head and actually starting to action things. So has anybody heard of the SMART goal setting method before? Or smarter? Yes, maybe. I've got a video here now. Goal setting, again, is a personal thing. This is a really standardized framework that a lot of organizations and people sort of know about. You don't have to use this moving forward, but it is a good place to start if you're starting to understand or trying to learn how to goal set. It just helps to break it down a little bit for you. So I'll play this one. This one's interesting. They've added on the E and the R. We'll have a little conversation about that after, just to see what you think about it. But I'll play it and we'll see what you think after the fact.
When you're setting goals, frameworks can give you a useful starting point. And the most famous goal-setting framework of all is SMART. A staple of corporate goal setting for over 30 years, SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. But perhaps it's time for a refresh. Essentially, SMART is a clever way of putting your goal into a clear sentence, and that's handy in that it helps you define your goal. But it doesn't necessarily help you decide if that goal is intelligent and worthwhile. One of the main issues lies in the wording. The terms attainable and realistic can cause people to set low, unchallenging goals. And what's the point of that? So is there a smarter way? Let's unpack what SMART means and see if we can make a few improvements. S is for specific. It encourages you to pin down a clear, tangible idea of what you want to achieve, or pinpoint an area for improvement. M is for measurable. All goals need a yardstick, otherwise we'll never know if they're successful. A is for ambitious. A worthwhile goal is one that challenges you to think big and to reach outside your comfort zone. R is for relevant. Will this goal really be good for business? Does it fit with your values or wider plans? What meaning does it have for you? T is for time-bound. Goals remain dreams unless you set time frames, and there's nothing like a deadline to motivate action. E is for emotional. We feel before we think. It's a scientific fact. Even in hard business terms, goals that come from the gut will probably have more sticking power because you want them more. R is for rewarding. Because what is a goal if not rewarding? Keeping your incentive, all the benefits of your goal in sight will drive you on, visualizing the peak of the mountain and your satisfaction on reaching it. So that's Smarter, a useful tool for setting clear, practical goals.
What did everybody think? So we've had a few that have encountered SMART goals before. Those who haven't encountered SMART goals before, what did you think of that method? Did it sound like it could be useful for you? Were there any bits that
I don't think I've done a SMART goal before.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was there anything about it that you thought, oh yeah, that actually makes this really useful? Like, was there any particular sort of, even if it was just one of those letters that went, oh, actually, yeah, if I do sort of attach this to a goal, it'll make it clearer for me?
Time bound. Yeah. Well, I think it's done like at a certain time, but sometimes it doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. What about you, Jade?
The time bound I hate that because I feel like sometimes I get distracted or whatever. Like I don't really set goals, like as in writing things down. I usually have things in my head of what I want to do, and then I set out to like achieve that like as best as I can. But I'm definitely driven by the emotion and is it rewarding for me, or and that's what I think I find hard, things that are not like they're things that I don't really want to do but things that I have to do. They're the hardest ones to achieve, or maybe they don't have I haven't looked into it enough to see like what am I getting out of it, and so it doesn't give me that inspiration to get cracking on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you feel like this kind of method and actually breaking it down like that would be beneficial for you?
Yeah, like,
in sort of helping it get past that, actually understanding how it is going to be somewhat rewarding, or how you're going to fulfill each sort of step?
Yeah, because I think breaking things down always makes things easier because you can kind of go, okay, it's not that hard, like I can do this and this and this and this, and then that'll lead me to where I want to go.
Yeah.
As opposed to just having it all like mumbled in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole idea behind setting goals. And a lot of the time people say, write down your goals, write down your ideas, write down your to-do list, and people are like, oh yeah, you've said it before, but often it is actually really helpful, but sometimes what we're missing is a framework to do that. We can have this big idea and we can write it on a piece of paper or write it in our phone, but if all we're saying is, get a job, there's nothing really that gives you any direction about get a job. How can we really specify that to give us somewhere to start and then something to aim for? So that's really what goal setting is about. And we're going to bring them together in a second. Just a quick test. Do you remember what SMART? We won't go smarter, or we can do smarter, but SMART stands for
Measurable, same thing.
Yeah.
Ambitions.
Relevant. Yeah.
Time
bound. Yeah. Awesome.
Emotional rewarding.
A+.
My first day.
So, just to recap, S, specific. So the goal is concrete, it's tangible, everybody knows what it looks like. Measurable, the goal has an objective measure of success that everybody can understand. Attainable, the goal is challenging but should be achievable with the resources available. Relevant, the goal meaningfully contributes to larger objectives like the overall mission. And timely or time bound. The goal has a deadline, or better yet, a timeline of progress milestones. Something that's also important to remember about goals is sometimes there are little checkpoints that you create within a goal to get to the final point. So you might have one big goal that is, I want to get a job in marketing. That's my big goal and I want to do it by 2025. But I know there's things I need to achieve beforehand, so my goal can be in stages. I want to complete a certificate 2 in social media marketing by the end of 2024, then have applied to 5 jobs in the social media marketing sector to get a job in marketing. And there are lots of different steps in that, and you can unpack that even more. But your goal doesn't have to just be one thing. A goal can be multifaceted, have multiple layers to it, or you can just keep it pretty simple. And anybody have any questions about goal setting, SMART goals, before we bring it all back together? No? All making sense so far? Great. So we're going to, I've just got a bit of an example here first, and this kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to be doing. I've put together a very generalized SMART goal for intellectual well-being, just because I don't want to sort of sway anybody's thoughts, and I really would like you to try and create your own goals in this next activity. But just to kind of break it down for you, my goal is I want to expand my knowledge and critical thinking skills in learning and development by completing an online course by the end of this year in 2024. Specifically, I will take an online course specific to the field, learning and development, offered by a particular platform to deepen my understanding and gain new perspectives. So that's specifically what I'm going to do. I'm going to measure it by successfully completing the course on all the assessments. It's going to be attainable by understanding what the expectation of that course is. So, the duration of it. It requires a commitment of time, and I believe that that aligns with my current workload. So that's why I'm going to do it by the end of 2024, not the end of this month, not the end of this week. That's why it's attainable. It's relevant to me because I'm really interested in learning and development. It's going to help my career. It's also just going to spark interest for me, and I've got the time down there as well. Does that all make sense? Yeah? Awesome. Sometimes when people jump into this process of creating a SMART goal, they go straight to S and they do all of the bits because it kind of specific can be everything when you're thinking about SMART goals. You can absolutely do that, but I would also encourage maybe leaving specific towards the end or trying not to put the entire goal into your specific. That's what I always go and do, and then sometimes I miss out on some things, or yeah, that's just one way to look at it, but something to consider. So I've already alluded to it, but this next activity, and we've got plenty of time to work through it, is in partners, identify at least one, considering we've got the time, we might be able to do more, well-being factor that you'd each sort of like to work through that maybe needs a little bit of time, and then work together to create a SMART goal each for each other that you could potentially take away from this. It doesn't have to be huge. It could just be that, you know, you want to start exercising more. So how can you create a goal that maybe actually gets you there, creates some direction for you to be able to do that and balance out that well-being space. So I'll pop you into pairs if Mike and Crystal want to go together, and Jade and Marietta. So we've still got sort of 10 minutes before we hit that 30-minute mark, but take your time. If you can do more than one goal for each other and you feel like that's going to be really beneficial, absolutely go for it. Yeah, Mike, if you want to come around, and then I can move if you want to go around to sit with Mars, or are you happy to sort of do it this way?
I think we're okay.
You're happy as you are? Awesome.
Yeah.
Go for it, guys. And let me know if you need any help or anything.
So wait, we're making one each.
Yeah, one each, so you can each leave today with a
goal.
Are we making one for the other person, or are we
together.
diving
So you're
in?
collaboratively making one for each other. Could be guidance, could be.
What area were you thinking of for yourself?
Okay, my
Area
improved
for
ones
me
are physical,
is
financial,
social.
and intellectual.
Oh, I have physical and financial as well.
That was a good one.
They're kind of the ones that
They're
are more like drastic, obvious ones.
Physical.
I mean, they've all got improvements needed.
No, so there's no,
Yeah.
I sort of separated
Yeah.
three and three each, just fell away.
Yeah.
But I feel like physical.
Which part do you want?
I feel like intellectual is a really interesting one for me because I just did a course the other week, like a mini one, and that just stimulated my brain in a different way.
Right.
How I normally think, because how I normally think is creatively. So every idea is like you just constantly thinking of new ideas, blah blah blah. Whereas when I did the course, it was like learning content and regurgitating information, and it's so much switched on. After doing that, like I felt like my brain worked. So that's using part of my brain that I normally use. So
Next level.
intellectual,
What's the next
I feel
level?
like I can fulfill an
Measurable.
intellectual
How do you measure a
goal
fixed back?
before going to Spain, which is to learn some Spanish.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah.
Nice one.
How do you
Okay.
measure a fixed back?
So,
In like
do you mind?
priority?
Yeah.
No, like it says here, how do you
One or
measure
the
like
other
you're saying
one
you
of
want
the
a fixed
examples.
back?
Yeah.
Maybe with
How do
the
you know if it's
example, that was quite
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah,
Like
so it's
having something
overarching
done first.
goal.
So I'm
What's
gonna
the
write
surgery?
Okay. What's
Okay.
the next one?
Ambition.
Yeah, but
Oh, attain. Oh.
Attainable.
Is it today? Possibly.
Is it a
I think it is. No, it's oh. Say no. I think.
well, is
Wait,
learning
am I-
Spanish the overarching goal? Because then we've got to get specific. Like, are you saying learn the whole Spanish language?
no.
Is it one?
So maybe that's a specific part.
Oh, measure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the specific part is going to be
I
like
feel
greetings and like
I don't know.
ordering
is it relevant
food,
to your
Yeah.
physical health?
Yes.
toilet.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
What
So
would
essential
fixed back-
travel,
what would
travel
fixed back
related
achieve?
Spanish
No,
What
words,
would fix it back to?
phrases. Yes.
My mental health.
That's not your goal. Your
No.
goal's physical health.
Yeah. Well, I said it was both.
Oh, yeah, but it's physical.
Oh.
Order fixed back.
Um,
Helping.
you know how you said you did a
In your
course
life.
the other day?
Besides the
you
next
sort of
slide.
thinking
Yeah,
another language course or via an app?
The
Or-
movement.
Yeah, a bit of movement.
Like measurable,
So-
how am I going to measure if it's like
Oh, yeah, very good.
how
Yeah,
good
it's
my
good
kids
work.
getting?
So
I guess like
pretty
How
yeah,
organised
maybe
Yeah.
Good, Chris is not
Correct.
writing anything down, but we're getting
Oh shit, was I supposed to write stuff? Sorry, was I supposed to write stuff down?
This
I
is
mean,
now R, right?
only
your own
just so you can
Oh,
take
I've got
it
it,
away.
yeah,
But however you find it most
Yeah.
I
beneficial.
guess I was asking like
Never wrote anything down
it's
either.
through
Oh,
an
no,
app,
sorry.
you
Yeah,
know,
we'll
that's
do
why
yours
Yeah,
like,
first.
sorry,
apps,
yeah, we'll
This
do
is all
yours.
that you
then
do.
like
Yeah.
let's say,
What's the
and
next
it
one?
can measure over
Time,
time.
emotion.
yeah,
Oh.
progress.
Time
Yeah,
bound.
but I don't know if you
So
wanted to do a
when
course
is it
though,
Yeah.
that might look differently.
How long's a piece of string? Hopefully in the
How long's your
next.
piece of
Yeah, no,
maybe just like if I did like
hopefully in the next 6
Duolingo.
months. I reckon.
Oh yeah.
and
Cool.
then like
So what, 23rd
get
or
to
25th of January?
a certain stage
Yeah.
on it.
26th of January.
And then also
Yeah, nowhere near November.
I've got like an in the car
Yeah.
audio thing
Hopefully,
that I
you
got
know.
the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it forward a month.
Yeah.
So we've
2
got
months, maybe
around
like
4
late
to
August.
5 minutes left. So
Okay, Mars, just
emo-
switch
I
off.
know, emotional.
yeah, just spend another 30 seconds to a minute on
Emotional.
the goal that you're on now, and then swap over. We'll have some
Oh
plenty
no,
of time.
time
Just
What was the emotional one again? Is there a description of emotional?
Oh, you needed smarter.
you don't have to do emotional and
Oh, okay, well,
rewarding.
we're gonna
You
do
can
time
just
down.
do smart
Okay.
if you'd like. But emotional was more about sort of thinking about how it actually makes you feel, how that goal makes you feel. Because often, if you're sort of emotionally connected to it, it can just help you sort of move along.
Mm. Very emotionally
But-
connected.
Yeah, if you feel like you've kind of got a good basic goal with just SMART, then you can leave it at that. Up to you.
Attainable.
The thing that this misses is
Is it
how.
attainable? So do you think the
So I've got 4 weeks.
Okay, you go next. Okay.
Oh, that's the time down.
More family time.
Yeah, and how
So
are
is
you
it
going
attainable?
to...
Well, if I restrict it to
Oh, no.
those
Specific.
Specific,
More
yeah.
time with my
So,
immediate
yeah,
Okay.
I guess
Matthew,
so.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Carmela, and
Probably time to swap over if you haven't already.
And how is that going to be measurable?
and we can
measurable.
yes,
you know, when I get
Yeah.
there, what's on?
and you can speak.
And
you have
Spanish
30
in
minutes.
November.
Yeah.
Mum, you get 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking about it just when we were talking
And
about
is it-
the.
I'll be able to measure the
Framework.
number of visits.
I want
Yeah.
to improve my sleep hygiene.
Mm.
So have a
VPMs.
physical
VPMs.
sleep
2 VPMs.
Yeah.
Is what I'm going for.
Yeah, just like my basically my
Yeah.
sleep health
Yeah.
because it's just
Okay.
awful. So
Is it
Oh,
Is
like
it terrible?
generally nice
It
day.
is.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah,
have
so
the
you
time
can like
allocation.
Yeah.
wash your hair before
Social
you
on
no,
weekends.
I need to do that tonight.
I'll
But
need to work less on weekends.
Yeah.
to
so
allow
like
for it.
these specifics, that's like
Kind of.
the overall
Kind of.
goal,
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah.
Specific would be
how is it relevant?
so
It's relevant
limiting
because I have a shortfall in my social skills.
like
Develop
screen time,
specific
screen time,
family
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That's relevant.
And how
Do you
much
have like
time
a watch that tells
do you
you
think
start?
Well,
Yeah,
you'll
you can
need
use that.
for
Yeah.
social
I was
interaction?
thinking for measure as well.
Can
Yeah,
measure
I
oh,
said
yeah,
it
you
already.
can measure that with the watch if you can.
Specifically
260
60 days.
We're supposed to have good party, doing that stuff there.
Yes.
Going to bed, going to bed early is still part of specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon both that's attainable for work with, hopefully.
Like setting a bedtime.
That's exciting.
Yeah, hopefully.
Because I did that during
We didn't write anything down, we're all,
It's okay.
you know, we're connected.
While the other two are still sort of working through that final goal, you could start to put your mind to maybe how you might start kicking up this goal or what you need to do to actually get it going.
Bedtime, is it
I
attainable?
think I did that today. Yeah, let's write that down.
Right.
That would be sort of the next
Yeah.
step, which we don't have time for in this
attainable.
session, but you can definitely start thinking
Because I
about it.
realise right now how much time
time
I'm wasting on like scrolling
So
or
maybe that's it.
What
Yeah.
was it?
Data here.
Oh,
Because you
Write
can,
that down.
yeah.
my story.
there's nothing stopping you. Yeah, no barriers
Okay.
Nice choice.
to above.
How?
Is it relevant? It's relevant because it impacts every other domain.
Just don't forget it.
Couple
No,
minutes
I
left.
think I've got
And
it.
then
Alright,
will, like, are you just gonna
Just
start
speak
like cold
slowly.
turkey, or are you gonna like say like 3 nights a
Do you
week?
do-
I'm gonna do it.
Well, that's a really good point because if I thought of the time bound or when I'm going to start, like I can't start tonight, and I was like, can't start tomorrow. So like maybe it's a few nights a week.
Yeah.
No,
Maybe
I reckon that's-
weeknights?
Yeah, I reckon both
Yeah.
of those. But you might.
So
Generally,
Yeah.
but not really the immediate
next
family.
week.
Not really
Is it
time in that
throughout?
about. Or that much time on that.
True. So with measurable,
Yeah.
what is it like?
I'm a bit tired.
Yeah.
Because I
But I
want to
guess
achieve
they
a
do
score
come
of at
so much
least
quickly.
8% of sleep quality.
Exactly. Like,
So 2 months is when soccer finishes, that's when I've got to make it.
yes.
I think that attainable can
Yeah.
be thought of as realistic as well.
That's the how.
You know, how are you going to make the
Yeah,
goal
but like I
realistic
said, I mean,
for
it's-
you?
Let's
Which
say
It is attainable.
only
I
week
mean, I see my
nights.
mother every day, and I
Mm.
don't know.
Oh, that's like
Awesome.
No, but yeah.
Sounds like you've
Like
all
you said,
got
2 months.
sort of the bones of a SMART goal
But also-
sorted out.
Piece by piece.
Awesome. Does anybody want to tell us what their SMART goal was that they created?
Private.
Sure.
No, it's confidential.
Give me yours.
Sure. Mine was more time with my immediate family.
Yeah.
Because I don't really spend much time with them.
Yep.
Didn't write it down.
No, we didn't. No. We
So-
talked about it, and we
Spoken.
still remember it.
Today we're here to learn you all how to do good.
Yeah.
So specifically spend more family time with the immediate family.
Yeah.
Measurable was VPNs, visits per
Mhm.
month.
Yeah.
Love it. Nice.
Yeah.
So currently actually realise that I see the family once a week anyway at soccer, but soccer will drop off. So I need to make an effort myself to go and visit them, probably not weekly, but maybe fortnightly, visit
Yeah.
the immediate family.
Yeah.
Now they don't all live together, so that's a bit of an added complexity,
Mhm.
but that's alright, figure it out. Measurable would be, yes, maybe I'd say visits, fortnightly visits is the measurement. Attainable, it is attainable, and particularly in 2 months' time or so, I won't have soccer either, so the time commitment there drops off.
I feel like attainable should have as a
Mm.
sidebar like obstructions. Like when you're talking about is it
Risks.
attainable, what are the things that are going to stop you from it
Like,
being
are there
achieved?
barriers?
Are there barriers?
Yeah.
Like a flat tire.
Because like obviously when we're
Yeah.
setting a goal you say, yeah, of course it's attainable. Like otherwise why would I be thinking of trying to do it? If I didn't think it was attainable, like
Yeah,
that's a good
absolutely.
point.
That's a really good point. Definitely.
Like barriers.
Yeah.
like what could crop up to stop you from doing it? And so then if you know that when you get to that point, you know how you're going to resolve it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or at least you're aware of it going into it that this could pop up, and you know you've made plans. As you said, you've made plans for it for sure.
So that's attainable, yes.
Yeah.
So relevant, it's of interest with me because I want to improve. I want to spend more time with my immediate family.
Yeah.
So that's quite relevant.
Fantastic.
And I get a lot of reward and fulfillment and spiritual health being there.
And when are you going to start that?
Well, probably when soccer stops in 2 months' time.
Yeah.
Someone will do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So that is the end of session 2 already. Goes very quickly. So just to run through what we've spoken about, and that was quite a lot that we went through in that session. We spoke about smarter goals. Oh, I've got the wrong things on there, but that's all right. We spoke about smarter goals, so specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. We did a bit of a self-assessment, understanding where we currently are on that wellbeing metric in comparison to where we would like to be. And then we sort of worked together to create a SMART goal. Are there any questions from anybody before we have another break and then move into our next session?
No.
Fantastic. We'll have a break and then we'll